Hi, everyone. Our special guest today is Brandon Huns, owner of Dreamscapes Music Studios and lead singer of the Jersey Shore classic rock band White Rabbit. Hello, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing great, Lee. How are you today?
We're good. We're good here, as well as can be expected. That's for sure. So,
I hear
tell us
that.
a little bit about your musical background, first of all.
Well, I grew up. My sister played guitar, piano, took piano lessons, so I got inspired to do that. So I started with piano lessons. My mom taught me guitar when I was very young. Just basic chords, and she had this great Beatles book that I just, I learned how to read a chord chart, and I just pretty much learned every single Beatles song in the book, and and I just fell in love with music. I started, as I said, I did a little guitar. I took piano lessons. Then I learned trumpet, starting in fourth grade. I did trumpet all the way up through high school. I did jazz band, concert band, marching band, and while I was in high school, I also joined a rock band. Um, I met some guys, and they said, "Oh, you could play guitar." So I started playing rhythm guitar for the band, and then I started singing with them, and that was that. And we just started doing original music, doing a lot of covers: Black Sabbath, Metallica, Led Zeppelin, The Cure, which is like one of my favorite bands of all time. We did a little Nine Inch Nails, all different stuff. Beatles, of course, um, and. And then it was time to decide what I was going to do, in my career. So I was in a high school north, and with Frank Hughes, who is a really amazing music teacher. And he, fortunately, instead of taking like an extra foreign language or an art class, I was able to take music theory. So I took music theory 1 and 2, which was like jazz theory. And that really prepared me for making a decision to go into music college. So since I had all the training
What town did you
on,
grow up in?
I grew up in Toms River.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I grew up in Toms River, was at Toms River High School North. And I decided, I heard so many stories. I'm a big Billy Joel fan, with the piano background, and I heard such horror stories of his bad contracts and how he's, putting out all this great music and not making any money from it, and just trying to wait it out. And it was like, oh my goodness, like if I want to do music for a living, I got to learn the business side of music. So, I was looking at colleges. I found William Patterson University, and they offered a bachelor's of music, but it was music management. So it was the business side of music. So not only would I get, the ear training, the piano, the composition, the theory, everything that all the other music majors would get, but I would learn the business side of music. So, I went there, I auditioned on trumpet. And I really like trumpet, but at that level, it was just, that was like, it's an amazing school, but I couldn't do 7 hours a day at trumpet. And so I hooked up with the choir director, Stephen Bryant, and I was like, I always sang, but I never did anything. I was never in musical theater. I was never even in choir, aside from like maybe 4th, 5th grade when I tried it out. And so he trained me to audition. So after I got into classical trumpet, I transferred my, still same major, but I transferred my concentration over to classical voice. So I switched to classical voice, absolutely loved it. Did all Italian arias and German songs and French. And then by the end of it, I also added a classical piano minor. So as I was saying, with the music management degree, I also got, acting classes, law and ethics in the music and entertainment industry, of course, I had the MIDI technology room that I know that you had a part
Right.
in
Yeah.
helping out
Sure.
building that.
Turns out you became a utility player.
Yes. But it was like the perfect school for me. It was 20 minutes from New York City. Took a little, just drive over to Patterson, hop on the bus, or take the PATH train in right up from Hoboken. So
Right.
I was able to pop in there, go see some great music. And so when I graduated, while I was still in there, I started teaching at a music school. And they weren't hiring people as I guess they were hiring individual people, but I was like, it's time for me to make my business. So in 2003, I formed Dreamscapes Music Productions, and through that, I managed a band, and then I kind of was like, well, I'm managing myself too, and it's like there's gigs coming up. It's a bit of a conflict of interest,
Sure.
So it was like, so I stopped managing other bands, and it was also like a crazy amount of work for nothing. Um, but I also started teaching, so I was like, I can teach guitar and piano. And they were like, well, we really need a vocal teacher. I'm like, I've never taught vocals. I've taken a lot of lessons. So I started doing it, and it became my niche, and I was able to, kind of set myself apart from a lot of the other teachers who everybody, there was like 6 guitar teachers there, and there was
Sure.
like 5
Yeah.
piano teachers there, and I was the only vocal teacher. So my schedule filled up really fast, and I was like, okay, I didn't really plan on being a teacher. I always thought I was just going to rock, rock and managing bands and stuff. So it became, the bread and butter, and kind of, something I found out I was pretty good at, and I didn't realize I would be, and that kind of set me on the next course of my life, coming back to Tom's River. I taught through the Music Academy in downtown Tom's River, and, had a great experience over there. And then at the end of 2012, I decided, hey, I got to do this all my own. So I took it out of any other schools, and I did it all myself. And, now I do that. I'm also able to record bands. I produce a lot of music. I do some jingles for radio. And it's just like, I also have a band, White Rabbit, and, we play all over the shore and do weddings.
Right. Sure.
And yeah, so basically, I think to
Valuable
survive.
utility player is what you are, just in baseball terms.
Yes,
You're the
yes.
DJ LeMahieu of music.
So, I just diversified and
Yeah.
did as many different things. And thank goodness, I didn't just perform, because right now there's not much performing going on. And, if I wasn't teaching, then I'd be in a world of hurt.
Sure, exactly. A lot of my friends are like that. They haven't played gigs in a long time, and some of the ones that they're playing, they're not making regular money. A lot of it is, with reduced crowds, reduced audience, it's tough to ask for full fee, and most of the time they're playing for very little, very little. Although some are
Absolutely.
doing regular concerts if they've got the reputation, like the band called the Weaklings. They're doing pretty well, and they're doing the bigger areas with the outdoor stuff. So let's talk about, well, you mentioned Billy Joel, and Billy Joel is a big baseball fan. I know
Yes.
that a friend of mine used to work for Billy Joel. It was kind of funny because when you'd call him up, you would get Billy answering the phone, in a recorded voice. Hi, this is Billy. If you want such and such, press 1. You want, et cetera, et cetera. It was really kind of cool that way. But, it turns out, he shared a love of baseball as well as music. So let's talk a little bit about your love of baseball. Did you play as a youngster?
I sure did. I started with T-ball, actually, with Tom's River Little League. I played at Tom's River. Not Tom's River East Little League. Those are 2 different organizations.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So I grew up,
probably the biggest baseball town in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And I had a great experience there.
I
Yep.
have to tell you a quick story. I was asked to do a little clinic for a bunch of little leaguers that were going to play in the Little League World Series, and it turns out one of the players was 12-year-old Todd Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wonderful.
anyway, go ahead. Go. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. So, I had a best friend, and we shared the same birthday, and we were born in the same hospital, and he's Italian, I'm Italian, and we got along really well, and so both of our fathers coached.
Okay.
We were both coached in the same team, so we grew up together. He is also a musician. His name is Dan Petrosino, and he's a phenomenal drummer, and he's out in Vegas, just doing his thing, and you should definitely check him out. He's
Sure.
an amazing drummer. I'll send you the link later. But we grew up playing together. I pitched, once the T went away. I was pitcher, and I did that for a while, and then I kind of I think I got in my head a little bit, as pitchers, I think do. And I just, I was having trouble finding it, and I was like, you know what, I think I don't want to pitch anymore. So I ended up. I still had a pretty strong arm, so I played a lot of third base. I played a lot of catcher, and probably the majority of the time I would play first base because I was a pretty good fielder. I'm not lefty, which I know is a benefit for first baseman, but I love Don Mattingly. He's my favorite player of all
Right.
time. I also love Wade Boggs. That was the time of my life where I watched a lot of baseball. And I played Ken Griffey Jr. baseball on Super Nintendo. Like I was just like doing it all the time, thinking
It's
about
in your
baseball
blood.
all the time.
In your
Yes.
It turns out that's strange is that you mentioned you're Italian and your background, but there's so many Italian players in baseball. I mean, look, Don DiMaggio, and unfortunately, we heard recently that
Yeah.
Mr. Lasorda is hospitalized in ICU, and we wish him all the best to get well again at 93 years old. Unbelievable.
Wow.
In fact, when he managed the Dodgers, he was in his 70s, and he still threw batting practice every day. So I'll tell you a quick story. And every year our scouting organization has an awards dinner, and one year Lasorda was the guest speaker. And little did I know that he and I both had a mentor by the name of Ralph DeLullo. Once again, another Italian.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I took my father-in-law at that time to go to this big dinner. It's out in Long Island. So what do? First thing after a 3-hour car ride, you head to the bathroom.
Sure.
So little did we know, inside the bathroom, washing his hands is Tommy Lasorda. So,
wow.
After we started talking, I introduced myself, and I said, I'm once again a protege like you of Ralph DeLullo, and he's not doing too well at the time, and I think he'd appreciate a phone call from you if you have an opportunity. And then I said to him, and let me introduce you to my father-in-law, Nick D'Amico. So then Tommy says, he hits me in the chest, and he says, the best thing you ever did was marry an Italian. It was hilarious. So anyway, we go outside, and he gets mobbed by a bunch of people looking for autographs and pictures and stuff like that. So we're walking, me and my ex-father-in-law, towards another room where there's going to be a cocktail hour before the dinner starts. And I hear this voice screaming, "Hey, your best thing you ever did was marry an Italian." It was Lasorda 50 feet away from me screaming at me. It was the funniest thing. and he was the guest speaker. And he's an amazing guy. Here he is, living in Los Angeles. He flies in to New York City to go to this dinner, which is, about 7 o'clock at night and everything. Has the dinner. He's the guest speaker, a 45-minute comedy skit, which was unbelievably funny. He had people rolling in the aisles. He's telling stories, and when he gets off, he starts thinking of other things. He gets off on another tangent, and he had a punchline to all these stories. And he says, and I ain't making it up. And he's the funniest guy ever. He's talking about Steve Sachs throwing to first base, and people behind the first base line are wearing catcher's equipment because he can't accurately throw to first base anymore. And then the punchline's coming, and I ain't making this up.
Yeah.
We're laughing. He's such a great. But anyway, get back to him. He flies in, he goes to the dinner, and he flies back to LA the same night. All for nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, he respects the scouts, and of course he was tutored by one of them. And he's a prime story in himself, in that, Mike Piazza, that played for the Dodgers and the Mets, another Italian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
His father and Lasorda were close friends, and Mike's father owns a bunch of car dealerships in Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. Mike Piazza was the last draft pick the year he was drafted. The absolute last one is like number 1,300. And here he is, turned into the ball player he became. So you never know.
Yeah.
But that's my Lasorda story because of
that's a good one. That's real good.
And the other one is, this is a quick one. I'm playing softball in Eatontown, New Jersey, and I'm starting to talk to the umpire. I'm friendly with a lot of the umpires. I figure, hey, he's on my side now. Turns out it was Rico Petrocelli's brother. You know Rico Petrocelli? He used to play for the Boston Red Sox. He was the guy that got hit in the eye by a baseball and had ended his career.
I remember
but he
that
was a
happening.
great player.
Yes.
He played with Yastrzemski and those guys. But, how would you think, in a softball field in Eatontown, New Jersey, you'd run into the brother of a famous ball player?
Yeah.
So did your career end at that point,
Well, I played right up until, I guess I was around 12 or so, and I was on a team called, we were on the White Sox,
right.
and we went undefeated, and then we went all the way to the Mayor's Trophy game, and we lost that. That was the one game we lost to Thompson Reese Little League, and then once I hit high school, I was full on music, and it was just I was playing with my band every day after.
It's
after
amazing
school.
to know that musicians love baseball, and we find that almost every day. In fact, a few of my friends, one is a drummer. His name is Jack Scarangella. There you go, another Italian. But anyway, Jack's a drummer who played with Richie Havens' band and Clarence Clemens and the Red Bank Rockers, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And he became a protege at a young age of Buddy Rich. Buddy would take him everywhere. And he would take him often to Yankee Stadium. And Jack was in the old Yankee Stadium. He's the only guy I ever knew that could walk into Yankee Stadium and go right in. Nobody would stop him. Everybody knew him. So Ron Guidry found out that Jack was a drummer. And Ron wanted to play drums. He wanted to get lessons from Jack. And they set up 2 drum kits and a sound system underneath Yankee Stadium so Ron Guidry could take drum lessons. And he would play drums before he would go out to the bullpen to warm up. So,
wow, that's neat.
Amazing stories like that are all out there. And the drum kit actually got passed on to other Yankees like Paul O'Neill and Willie Randolph.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
So all of them had the opportunity to take drum lessons.
Wow, I never knew that. That's amazing.
Amazing, right? Well, I think we're running out of time, Brandon. It's really great to talk to you, and thank you for taking some time out of your day to stay with us and talk a little about your background and the things that you do. sharing your love of music, especially with young students.
It was a pleasure, and I appreciate you asking me to do it, and I appreciate you sharing your love of music with students too.
Thanks everybody for stopping by, and we'll see you all next week. Good night and take care. And that's it.
How'd I do?
You did great. You did great.
All right.
Yeah, the stories are what makes it. That's the whole thing. It doesn't matter, whether you played or whether but the stories people can tell are what makes everything so interesting. And it's amazing how many music people are involved in baseball. I mean, a friend of mine is the bass player in the Smithereens, Mike Massaros, which I didn't know that he was a real huge baseball fan and played up until college. And he actually played in a band with Black Jack McDowell, who used to pitch for the Yankees, also pitched for the White Sox. And then Jack's band would open up for the Smithereens on concerts and everything. And it turns out that Mike is the only non-player, non-roster player that was allowed to dress in a White Sox uniform and sit in the bullpen with the team.
Wow.
So, I mean, you see how many, and I think I even have somewhere in my collection Jack's album that came out, which was,
cool.
back in the 90s. But I mean, here it is, there's guys that are professional baseball players. Here's another quick story. I became friends with Walt Weiss. And guy you might know because he's from Toms River, Mike Jaziniak, famous ball player from Toms River, and still plays, even in his 60s. But anyway, one time I'm at the Pony, and we're setting up for a benefit concert, and these three guys come in, and it's snowing outside. They come in, they say, I know them from playing against them in the Jersey Shore Baseball League. And they offer to help. He says, well, we don't really need any help, but if you want to hang around, you can watch the football game on TV, go get some pizza or something like that. So they come back later on to see the show, and Springsteen's going to play that night. So all of a sudden, Mike brings the two guys up to introduce them to me. And the one guy is Jeff Bradley, who at the time was the beat writer for the New York Daily News. Now, all three guys actually played together on the same team at North Carolina. And another one of the guys that were on his team was B.J. Surhoff. You probably recognize that name from the Baltimore Orioles. But anyway, and then the other guy he introduces me to, and this is my friend Walt Weiss. Well, Walt had just won the Rookie of the Year. And so it was amazing. And Walt and I became friends, and Walt wanted to have Max Weinberg from the E Street Band teach him how to play drums. So
that's a pretty good teacher there.
He was a huge Springsteen fan, and he went to a ton of concerts because he became friends with one of Bruce's guitar techs. So they became friends, and I told this guy, Kevin, I told Kevin, Walt and I have been friends for many, many years. Well, Brandon, it's so nice of you to come by and spend some time with us today. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So thank you again. And thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you all next week. Take care. Good night.